Everyone, it's Phil Wade from Dalton Wade Real Estate Group, and today I'm joined with Jan,
Hi.
Tom,
Hello?
Talia,
Good
and
morning.
Lisa's working the camera. So today we're going to talk about preparing a complete, accurate, and successful CMA for your client, and also if you're working with a buyer, how to kind of help them make sure that they're not they're not overpaying for the property. So the first thing I do is I go on Zillow and I kind of check what the Zestimate is, just as a beginning place to sort of start. Just speak a minute on the Zestimate. Probably about a year ago, I attended a conference with Zillow's economist, and they talked at length about the Zestimate and sort of when it's accurate and when it's not. So when it's accurate and you can put a little bit more reliability into it is when the house is homogeneous. There's a lot of houses right around there that look like that house, subdivisions, and so that's when it works. When it doesn't work is when the house is unique, the house is kind of a one-off. So the statistics they gave were 60% of their estimates are within 2% of the home's value. 20% are off 5 to 10%, and then another 20% are off greater than 10%. So depending on the house, again, if there's a lot of houses like it in the area, the estimate's usually pretty good. Now remember, Zillow hasn't been in the house, so they don't they do have a feature where the homeowner can update the listing, but they're not going to know if there's a new roof or a new this or that or new kitchen. So you got to kind of factor all that in. So that's a little bit on Zillow. The next thing you want to do is map the property. So the best comparables are closest to the home. So the closer the comparable, the better it is. So the further you get away, the less accurate it's going to be. So you want to find 3 to 5, usually 3 is good, houses that have sold as close to the subject property as you can find. So, and then you want to, call them up and see sort of what they have versus, what the property you're comparing it to, has. So the goal is to kind of make everything apples to apples. So, the property that you're doing the CMA for then sort of equals, the properties you're using to compare. So, you're going to go into the home and then, you're going to look at, the roof, the AC, the electrical, the main guts of the house, because, and again, the houses you're using to compare, more than likely you haven't been in those houses. So you're only going to be able to, go off of the pictures, go off of, what the realtor remarks talk about. But, again, if a house looks like it's completely updated and then your house, needs a new roof, needs a new AC, it's not been updated, certainly it's going to be worth, less. And then the question is, how much less? So, the other thing you've got to kind of factor in, would be, the square footage, whether it has a garage, the bedrooms, a pool. Those are kind of the main sort of, things that makes homes different. So let's say you've got a house that has had a garage conversion and now it's a third, it's a 3-bedroom, and then the house you're comparing it to hasn't had the garage conversion, it still has the garage. So the garage and the 3rd bedroom are about equal in terms of their value. So, and that's kind of what an appraiser told me, so I kind of run with that. So if it's got the garage conversion versus the 3rd bedroom, then, it's about the same. Now, what if it's a 2-2 with no garage, and then the property you're doing is a 3-bedroom, right? Well, the 3rd bedroom is probably worth about $20,000 to $25,000 in value. A garage, an actual functioning garage is worth about $20,000. A pool is worth about $20,000 to $25,000. So you got to do your pluses and minuses to kind of come up with, okay, making everything the same. The other one that comes up a lot that people sometimes don't actually do correctly is, the house you're comparing is, 1,600 square feet, and, well, let's reverse that. The house you're comparing is 1,400 square feet, and your house is 16, so it's got 200 square feet more. So then they take, and then the average, the average price per square foot was $200. So you don't give, the extra you don't do 200 extra square feet times $200. That's 40,000. The incremental square feet, I usually use about half. So it's about 100 because again, that house, it has to have some square feet. So the extra square feet, you don't get kind of full value for. You typically get, half. And all these pluses and minuses, these adjustments, they're all, you want to get them as close to correct. It ultimately comes down, to be a ballpark. Other things that kind of come into play, is one house in a flood zone versus a house that's not in the flood zone. The house in a flood zone is going to be worth less. Is the house, you're comparing on a busy street. Houses on busy streets sell for less. So you've got to factor all those things in, to kind of come up with, okay, this is what I think this house, will sell for. So those are the important ones. So you want to make everything apples to apples. And the things that typically need adjustments are garages, third bedrooms, pools, the square footage, if it's in a flood zone, if it's on a busy street, and then you just kind of, come up with what you think the value is, and then, you ultimately present it to your client, and you kind of walk them through how you did it. Now there is, through the MLS, there is a thing, I know Jan, you still use the Cloud CMA?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a little bit more formal, some video, you can talk about why you like it.
Well, the reason why I like the Cloud CMA is one, you're able to go in and pull some of the listings that you chose yourself, or if you don't want to do that, it will default to the properties that's closest to the subject property and pull in those values. And you can also insert pictures in there. On my CMA, I also put in a page about myself from Zillow, so I can tailor that to look like I 100% made it all myself. So those are some of the things that I like about it as well.
Now, does it actually come up with the value for you,
No,
or
it does not.
You still have to do that?
Right, you still have to do that. It comes up with like 3 different, it just gives you ranges, like it'll give you the Zestimate on there, and it'll give you another range as far as other properties in that area, the high, medium, and low. So then you can kind of come to your conclusion by that. So it gives 3 different examples on what the property surrounding it has been selling for.
Yeah, I mean, coming up with a value, I mean, that's ultimately kind of, if you go on a listing presentation, tell them all the great things you do, but in the end, they just want to know, what are you going to charge me, and what do you think my house is worth? So, and then they're going to have their own opinion as to what their house is worth. I mean, and again, when you do a CMA, it is not all like inclusive, or you never know, because every house is different. I mean, I remember it's probably a little over a year ago, I did one on a condo over in Madeira Beach, and I came up with we should list it at $439. They said, oh, let's do $459. We did it, and then we had 2 offers the first week, in the 450s. So, obviously, if we would have went at $439, it probably would have been a little bit low. So sometimes, erring on the side of being a little bit high, is certainly something that's okay. And then, if it doesn't sell, typically in this market, if something doesn't sell in a month, you're probably a little bit on the high side. So again, it's an estimate. It's not a science. It's more of an art. So you're coming up with kind of what you think, and then ultimately your client is going to have an opinion as to what they think their home is worth. And then if you're working with a buyer, again, it's just to kind of make sure that where that listing agent put that house, there's support for it. If there's a cash buyer, you're not going to have to go through the appraisal process. But if they're getting a loan, and the property's high, and your client went for it, and you said, yeah, I can support the value, hopefully the appraiser is going to be able to support the value as well. So any questions on putting together a CMA and kind of the steps to do it.
I
Yeah.
want to say one more thing
Yeah.
about the Cloud CMA. The other thing that I really like about it is it pulls in pictures of the comps that's comparable. So when you're, if you print that out, you can put it in a portfolio, and you can take it to the listing appointment with you. And also, it has a slideshow so that you can present the slideshow to the seller when you get at the home. Looks very professional.
Yeah, and I think it's nice that it has the pictures, because sometimes you can show them, like a lot of times, especially if somebody, hasn't updated their house, and then their neighbor's house sold for X, they think, oh, well, my house is worth that. But, certainly sometimes it's probably worth less because it's not been, it's not been as updated. Any questions in Periscope land? Alrighty, well, thanks everybody for coming and for tuning in, and certainly available offline to to answer any questions and kind of help you when the time comes for you to do your CMA. Thank you.